Hey there everyone, I'm Michael and welcome to another socially distant dev update. In this video I don't really have much actual new features to show you guys, more just things going on with the game's development that I want to talk about. First of all, I have some announcements. The first big announcement is that there is now an official socially distant website. It's work in progress right now, but it's sort of like a promotional page for the game, so you can find out more information about it. Now, again, like I said, it is work in progress, so it's very bare bones right now and missing a lot of content. But there is a frequently asked questions page that answers a little bit more of the questions that I usually get with the game in various communities that I talk about it in. So I just felt like it was a good idea to set that up now rather than later. And then, of course, there is now an official Twitter account for the game. So this will be where I post more frequent dev updates, and in fact this video will be posted to it. And, you know, it's going to be a place where you can find out even more about the game and stay up to date with it. It was created yesterday, so naturally there's not a lot of content on it either, but, you know, there it is. Anyway, on to the actual game itself, and I want to talk about a decision that I'm trying to make as I work through implementing gameplay and actually designing the hacking mechanic, because that's what we're doing right now. We're done working on the core network simulation and the virtual operating system and all that stuff. We're done working on all that code. We're now actually putting everything together and starting to work on the actual gameplay. Now it's still in planning phase, so that's why I'm not showing you guys any actual, you know, footage of the gameplay. It doesn't exist yet. It's just kind of just text on a piece of paper right now describing it. But there are some elements of the game that I'm realizing I might need to change. Or it might be beneficial to change them, and I want to talk to you guys about some of those elements so that I can get your feedback and get some ideas on what we should do. So let's actually hop into the game and I'll show you the current state of affairs here. Now I will have to warn you, this is not a master build, so there's going to be a lot of bugs most likely. What we worked on was basically continuing off what we did in the dev stream yesterday. So you'll notice up here we've got two little icons. One of them is a square and one of them is a socially distant logo. These are pinned tools. So in the dev stream the other day I implemented tools, display windows, and you know, these are those display windows. In the live stream we had to actually go into the debug menu and go open a display and then click on the display we wanted to open. This is no longer the case. You can now get to these displays through the status panel, which is more or less what it's going to look like in the final game. And that's pretty cool. Likewise, Terminal has been, well, not Terminal, but the Hell system has been somewhat rewritten a bit today, which is why this is not a master build. I'm testing it out and making sure it all works. That has all been refactored to use the new bootstrap and holder system that I described in the previous live stream, whereas before it was using some other system and it wasn't tightly integrated with the rest of the game and it was very difficult to work with, but now it's a lot easier to work with, and it, as far as visuals go, it looks identical to what it did in the previous build, but it's more easy to work with in terms of code. But, you know, that is how things are right now. The game is functioning perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's got some enhancements, but it's the same. It's basically the same build we had yesterday, with a few bug fixes and enhancements here and there. But there is a little bit of a problem that I have to overcome with the game, and its design and its user interface. And that is, well, it's two components. One is, where do we put content on the screen and how do we make it fit? And the second one, or the second issue, is how do we tie all of these panels here together? see, what we have right now is we have this the system panel, which is not implemented yet, as you can tell, but it's going to be where system logs and status information goes. We have this map panel, which is of course going to be a city map and a network map as you're hacking. We have the display panel, which we just implemented yesterday. You can see sort of how it works. And we have the social panel, which is mostly implemented but isn't used yet, but it's your social media panel. And then we have our terminals, which is the most functional part of the game right now. And they all work well, but they're all separate. They don't communicate. For example, right now, if I were to, let's say I had some sort of file in here, like echo restitched is cool into restitched.txt. I'm picking on Trixel Creative a lot lately, but let's say I had this restitch.txt file and I wanted to view it. Well, I would use the cat command to view it. And, you know, that cat command would display the file in my terminal. But maybe what I would want to happen, because this is a game, is I'd like the file to also display in the display panel so that I can scroll through it, highlight it, copy and paste, edit if I wanted to. Basically, it would open in a text editor if I decide to use the cat command, or maybe a text viewer, and then if I want to edit the file, I would type something like edit or vim or nano. I don't know how using vim for that command would go across, because I feel like people would be very salty about me using vim as the command name, and then it opens a graphical text editor. That doesn't seem like a good idea, but you get the point. I would like the display panel and the terminal to sort of communicate with each other in terms of what they're doing. Likewise, when I'm hacking, I might want the map panel to update to reflect what I'm hacking. If I do an nmap on trixelcreative.com here, I might want, for example, the display panel to pull up a graphical representation of the nmap command. You know, Hacknet does that. And I'd also like maybe the map panel to focus in on the actual physical location of where trixelcreative.com is in the city. You know, it does have a physical office location in the game, so I would maybe like to see that. And then maybe I get into the network, I'd like to then have the network map open on that network and I can see what nodes I'm interacting with. That's something that I'd like to do. And maybe the social panel here, I have a list of contacts on the side, and I click on a contact and I'd like their DM conversation to open in the display panel. Or the system panel, I might have some logs that get posted as I run commands, or as I connect to systems, or as systems connect to me. The point I'm trying to make is I'd like these windows to communicate with each other in some way. That's very difficult to pull off, because having the gameplay systems tied to the UI is troublesome. At least directly tied to the UI. I don't want, for example, the Hell system to even be aware of the system panel, because in some scenarios the system panel might not be there, and that might break the Hell system. So I'd want to dispatch some sort of event. Now, I have ways to do that. That's the whole idea of the bootstrap and holder system. You have this idea of a Hell system instead of a terminal running a Hell, and then the Hell system is what the terminal communicates with, and then things can communicate with the terminals by going through the Hell system. That is already working. The thing is, it's a lot of work to get all these tiled panels to communicate with each other, even with that system, even with that whole holder bootstrap paradigm. And that's not really what I'm focused on right now. Right now I'm focused on the user experience, because there's another big problem. Yes, I just explained that we solved the communication problem, mostly, but what about the actual layout and where content fits? For example, let's say I have a web browser open in my display panel, you know, Chrome. Let's say I have this. Generally, most people tend to use their web browsers either maximized or in a massive window. They don't really tend to have their browser cramped up into this small of a window because, well, this is how it would look like. Let's try to, you know, imagine for a second that this is tiled in place or socially distant, and it's tiling window management here. Oh yeah, Windows 11 and its resize management is like really bad. But let's try to get this window down to size here, and I'll show you what it means, or what it'll theoretically look like. I have to do it from the top because Windows 11 window management is just that bad. Why did they have to break it? What the hell even happened here? Alright, you know, we already, though, we can see what's going on here. Twitter is responding to the layout of Google Chrome here, and I'm already just about, I'm already bigger than, or I'm still bigger than the display panel and socially distant, and you can see that Twitter's gone into mobile mode. This isn't how people use their web browsers on their desktop. This is very cramped and ugly, and I don't like it at all. This isn't a phone. I don't want a phone-style layout. So, yeah, having this fixed, tiled layout kind of limits what I can do with these graphical displays. There's just not that much space on screen. Now, I know some of you might give me the solution of, well, you might give me multiple solutions. First solution I can think of is completely throw away the graphical user interface. Stick to command line. We have a functioning terminal, use the terminal. But no, this is a game. I don't want to... If the user wanted to do everything in the command line, they wouldn't download a game. They would download Linux. No, I'm not going to be forcing the player to use the command line. There are legitimately some tasks in Socially Distant that need a user interface. This isn't just a hacking game. It's also a narrative-based game. It's a social media game. It's got an entire dialogue system in it for NPCs and the social media system and chats and stuff like that. We need a graphical interface, so we can't just throw away the GUI and stick to command line. That's not a possibility. Not gonna happen. The second solution might be to allow the player to increase the size of the tiles. Problem is, Unity's UI system makes that really cumbersome. It is really annoying to implement that. Because the way these are implemented is they're not fixed in place. They're not arbitrarily sized and positioned on screen. They are actually using a grid system, and interacting with that grid system is very annoying. Now the third solution might be to go with a floating window manager, and that's what we're thinking about right now. We're thinking about moving the game to a floating window manager. What does that look like? Well, we already have one in the game. It's not the right debug menu. We already have one in the game. We have a settings window. And this settings window is in a floating window. You know, it's got a little gray overlay over top of the actual game, but, you know, we can remove that. But once we remove that, we have draggable windows. Sure, the mouse might not coordinate very well. We can close the window. It's trivial to add a minimize and a maximize button. And it's even trivial to add a resize button. We have the dragging capability, so why not add resizing on these little edges here and on the corners? It's not that hard. So if we already have this draggable floating window manager system in the game that already works really well despite how thrown together it is, why don't we use this for the entire game? I don't think I implemented the close button. No, I did. Okay, I just couldn't hit it properly. Why don't we take all of these elements and move them into floating windows? That's what I'm thinking. In fact, there are hacking games that do this. Uplink, for example, does this. That's a game from 2001. Greyhack, which is a game that I only found out about yesterday, also does it. And it looks really cool. There's no reason why we have to be tied to a tiling window manager. The only reason I went with a tiling window manager was because I thought it would be simple, and to be honest, it's not. And because thought it would please all of the Linux enthusiasts out there that use tiling window managers as their daily drivers. But this is a game. I don't need to please the Linux tiling window manager fans. I just need to make a game that's fun to play. So, yeah, that's what we're working on right now. We're working on the hacking system, don't worry. That's what our main thing is right now. We have some ideas as far as how it's going to work and how we're going to get it implemented. But we're also thinking about user experience, and this is one of the decisions that we have to think about and that we have to make. So let me know what you guys think. Should I go for a floating window manager, make this whole thing really simple? What do you guys think about me doing that? What do you guys want the floating window manager to look like? Or do you want me to stick with a tiling window manager? And how do you think I should, make the experience more cohesive? And another thing that I want to point out is this whole status bar here. The original concept was a floating manager, and it made sense to have this sort of Windows style, I want to say taskbar, but it isn't actually a taskbar. It's more of just a launcher and status bar. Like this icon in the corner, it is meant to be a menu eventually. So that's going to be how you get to your settings. Basically, a lot of the stuff you can do in debug menu right now, like opening settings and saving the game and all that stuff, is going to be in that menu. And then these, of course, are the pinned tools. These make sense to have in a floating manager, but not so much in a tiling window manager. Like with the display panel here, why would I want to take my attention off of what's going on down here to go up and open something else from the status panel? Like, that seems like a very, very, very annoying thing to do. I don't know. To me, it feels annoying because I have to pan my magnifier. If I'm typing, I have to, like, actually move my hand off the mouse and go up there and lose track of where I used to be in the game's UI, and it gets annoying after a while. So yeah, and that's something we also have to think about. So anyway, that's my little devlog for Socially Distant for the time being. No real new features. Just want to talk to you guys a bit more about the planning and the development process and what we're thinking about right now, and I want to hear your guys' opinions in the comments and on Twitter and all that stuff. Anyway, I've been Michael, as always. Hope you learned something, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.